in the whole race, right? In saying that, though, it was also the clear-cut favourite right up until all this happened on that Baja. So it was actually the best-backed runner in the race all the way from 60 minutes all the way down, and then it got blown out, that strike one, and came storming down the outside like a freight train. So definitely one to sort of black book. Okay, so I'm just going to jump into the next now, and I am going to get to a couple of you and answer some questions and things like that. Okay, so we just had a look at Renwick Race 2. I'm now going to jump into Eagle Farm Race 2. Warracknabe or no invest. Newcastle, no invest, right? Eagle Farm Race 2, I jumped on the number 3, Southerly Impact. You know, like that for me was a very easy decision to make. Yes, there's only 7 runners in that race, but look at those indications. Look at that rating. You know, 88 points compared to 51. You know, that's a massive, massive difference in those ratings. There's what I'm talking about, healthy overs. $4.60 for the win, but it still held on to $2.60 for the place. That is absolutely bloody awesome, right? That is exactly what we want to look for. We want to look for confident win money, right? If we go back to that race with Baja, we'll all understand the mistake that we made. The important thing about mistakes and making mistakes is that we learn from them, we move on from them, and we make sure that we don't do them again, right? Easier said than done. But that is the exact thing that we are looking for, right? The only thing that I would say in that race is that, yes, there was only 7 runners in the race, right? Certainly the indications were such that you could have felt quite confident with taking that, and I certainly was. All right, and I see I've got the trifecta in that race as well, which was probably nothing really outstanding under the radar. All right, so let's move on. My next one was not this race. Why wasn't it this race? Because the only runner there to take was the high-rated runner, which was the number 1 Light Vision. Was it the high-rated runner? Yes, it was, 82 points. Certainly not interested in backing favourites, and I think that we probably all learnt a little bit of a lesson. Well, I did anyway, by doing that race earlier on where I was following the shorts. Not what we're looking for. We're looking for the spikes, right? So, geez, those indications would have been good if we had seen them. You know, on the number 8 there, fantastic indications, but still in saying that, I'm still not going to back against a short price favourite like that. And when the favourite is the highest rated runner, it's very dangerous. You know, we just don't want to be doing it, okay? And I think that I've Cape Dear Moor in under the radar today. I can't remember now. God, I had to get it done so quickly this morning. All right, now no invest. Okay, we'll look at Morphettville Race 2. Morphettville Race 2, look, if I had have seen that, I probably would have taken that number 3 Heritage Star, but I didn't see it, right? And we've got to sort of go back and have a look, right? If I'm going to be doing Eagle Farm Race 2 with only 7 runners in the race with those sorts of indications, and we got 88 points versus 51. If we then sort of jump into the next race and sort of have a look at Morphettville and say, righto, we'll look at those indications there on the number 3 at Morphettville, well then there's no reason why we wouldn't have taken that if we're following that same thing, yeah? So all I'm saying is that I didn't see that race, but looking at it in hindsight, I probably would have jumped on it. Actually, I wouldn't have. Right, let's have a look at it a little bit more. Everything in that top half of the field, there's nothing really separating them in terms of price. They're all paying unders for the place, so that for me would have been straight away no invest. Okay, making some sense, I do hope. Renwick Race 3, I did nothing. I really, did I? Hang on. Renwick Race 3, no, I didn't, did I? No, I didn't. I didn't do anything there because really, I mean, looking at those ratings, there was nothing separating anything else from anything else, and you didn't see that number 5 until it was too late. Right on the 0 seconds marks, a little bit of colour that came in there. That favourite number 3 looked fantastic and is a really strong horse. You know, if you don't know that, you'll certainly learn that through spring. It's going to be doing wonderful things this year. So, yeah, look, a bit of a no invest. I think that there was a few of us looking at that number 8 and a few people sort of talking about it, but for me, not really one that I was overly confident with, to be honest with you. And so, yeah, a bit of a no invest that race. All right, getting on to Eagle Farm, I took the number 2 there, Secrets Untold. Look, you know, it was a bit of a risk. It was a bit of a risk because you had the number 2 and the number 5. I was fairly confident either which one of those was going to come in, and in fact, you know, like I would have put my bottom dollar on that, that either one of those runners is going to come in there, and, you know, it was looking fairly safe, so I did take that, you know, and just jumping in, I just want to confirm that, yeah, so Eagle Farm Race 3, definitely did take that, chucked on $60 and got back 140, so, you know, not a bad result there. Moving on, the next one that I did was, definitely this. Now look, I know what I said. I know that I said that, and I know that, and everybody's got to understand that as well, that when you are sort of looking at something that isn't sort of, I was already up about $500 or $600 by that stage, so for me to take the risk on taking that and looking at the only 3 TAB shortener outside of the favourites, it was the only 3 TAB shortener outside the favourites. It was also a black booker of mine, so was Jungle Ruler, who, like I was sort of looking at as well, and I thought, well, for the 2 colours outside the favourites, I'm probably going to have to, go with the number 8 and number 3. The ratings were quite weak, and that's a fact. The ratings were quite weak. So if we're sort of saying, okay, what was absolutely clear and concise today, you can go over it and look at it and understand it and everything else. This one's starting to step a little bit past that, where you're sort of saying, okay, look, a little bit of intuition there. It was in under the radar. It's on. It was, the highest, or well, one of the highest rated runners, but not by much. And the only 2 that were the high rated was, number 3 and number 8, both of them in my black book. So, that was sort of one of those decisions where, on ratings alone and on information alone, you probably would have been a little bit hard pressed to sort of justify that selection. The number 11, the favourite, was also looking really strong. Don't forget that the bigger the pool, the weaker the colour's going to be, right? If the colour's weak, you have a look at the size of the pool. We've got over $500,000 in the Victorian wind pool, so it is only going to bring up a slighter change in those dividends, right? Cairns, no invest, right? No invest at Cairns. We're not interested in those little races. No invest at Morphettville. That just looked like an absolute raffle, that race. No invest at Belmont. Renwick race 4. Now, this is, I don't think I got on Renwick race 4. No, I didn't. And, really, odds on favourite, colour happening in that top half of the race there and all that sort of stuff, but definitely was looking like that favourite. I mean, with that big hit at 10 minutes there, that was a fairly solid amount of money that come on there. I didn't see what come in. Oh, Fubusu, that's a little bit of sneaky 3-toed shortener down the bottom there. Anyway, moving right along. My next race was, and you can see at Eagle Farm, I did take the 3 and the 8 there. So, Flemington. So my next one was Eagle Farm race 4. Eagle Farm race 4, I took the number 1, right? The number 1 there for me was quite an easy selection to make, looking at the 5-minute mark there. Very strong colour across the 3 TABs, good consistent follow-up, which isn't always key to our selection process and things like that, but certainly, when there was a little bit of scatty stuff happening elsewhere, that certainly did look like the one. I know that a few of you also took the number 6. That's great selecting, that's fantastic, but for me, I would have found the number 6 hard to pick over the number 3, right? So what you have done there is a little bit open to interpretation. I know that there was a little bit of agreement amongst a few of you as to that number 6, but for me the definite standout in that race was the number 1. So that was my only trade in that race, Eagle Farm race 4, yep, number 1. So, all right, and the next one was Flemington race 5. So Flemington race 5, well, no, number 7, Symphony Miss. I think, most of us saw that indication. Very, very nice indication. Very nice odds that it was paying as well. I was having a little bit of a peek at that Dane Julia late. Not overly interested in it, to be honest, especially when you've got something that's that strong in terms of colour and sudden sort of rise in the flow of betting and things like that. That number 7 was certainly a great selection. I also would have considered the number 1 to be a good selection for anybody that sort of was looking at it. That's you've got some good strong colour across all 3 TABs and a pool where like there's sorry, I'm just clicked on the wrong button there, but yeah, $681,000 in Victoria, $500,000 in New South Wales, and $336,000 in Queensland. So those pools are rather large, and it's not going to take the opposite. It's going to take a hell of a lot of money to change those dividends and move that market. That's what sorts this right from other things, because you can see up here, for instance, when we're looking at the Melbourne Cup, you're going to be lucky to see one grey colour, right? And when we do, the money behind the colour will be 50 grand, and it'll have gone up from $4,000. So you have a look at the number 6 here, and we've only got grey colour, but look at the rise in that flow of betting. From 8,000 up to 16, nearly 17,000, then bang up again to 21,000. They're strong indicators, right? But for the stuff outside and for what we're looking for, the number 7 is what meets our criteria and is a solid indication there. So that was fairly well it for me for the day. I sort of, look, I could